Asliel had a particularly poor farm for most kind of agriculture, but small herbs found its stony, loamless, acidic soil very comfortable. Out of necessity more than anything else, he became an expert on all manner of herbs. For the most part, of course, they were used in flavouring cooking, but as you know, hardly any plant grows on the surface of our world without a magical potential. Even so long ago, witches already were in existence. It would be ridiculous for me to suggest that Asliel Doreni invented alchemy. What he did, what we can all be grateful for, is that he formulated it into an art and science. If you venture far enough from the magical institutions of Tamriel to the small towns and farmsteads dotted across the continent, you'll find men, mer and beast folk without a thought to spare for mastery of the arcane. To them, every new day brings the same enduring question: do you have what it takes to survive? If the land doesn't produce crops and the forests don't provide game, they will go to sleep hungry. To these people, the pursuit of magic is a frivolity reserved only for the elite, a waste of time and energy. Combined with the countless grand-scale tragedies, like the Oblivion Crisis, the common serf learns to disdain the very utterance of the word magic. For when Mehrunes Dagon, the Destroyer, the leader of the revolt, comes to take over the world, these humble folk are collateral damage, irrelevant to the lofty Daedric ambitions. With this new perspective, from people not fortunate enough to be the chosen one, their contempt is entirely understandable. But while the extravagant forms of magic occupy most of our attention, the reality is, magic lies everywhere, in everything, and were it to disappear, as these people seem to desire, the realm would become a dismally dull place. That is why I'm fascinated by alchemy. Alchemy is for everyone. I like to see it as household magic. It can take the simplest of forms, from the delectable mead infused with juniper berries, to elk meat seasoned with the choicest salts and herbs. Through the sun and the stars, the rifts created by Magnus and the Magnagi, magic is imbued in all things, and as a result, the possibilities and manifestations of alchemy are infinite. After a few too many weeks cooped up in the halls of the Arcanium, this particular topic couldn't be any more welcome. In order to research the art of alchemy, I've taken to the field, exploring the taverns and apothecaries as well as into the wilderness. Of course, I've also brought a pack full of tomes, neatly wrapped to brave the elements. I've covered all of the contemporary schools of magic, but there are still other forms that require study, and in this lesson, we'll cover all there is to know about the craft, as well as its long and equivocal history, and by the end of it, I hope to prove that alchemy is far more than just potion making and quackery. First things first, let's address the commonly held definition and uses of alchemy. Alchemy is the act of mixing, boiling, and distilling various substances to obtain their chemo-magical properties and create potions and poisons. Imbibed orally, or introduced to the bloodstream directly, these potions and poisons grant the target positive and negative magical attributes respectively. What constitutes an alchemical ingredient is essentially limitless. Usually, it is a plant extract or finely ground mineral, but other popular forms include Daedra and undead extracts, as well as biotic materials salvaged from animals, lesser creatures, and even the intelligent races. Interestingly enough, alchemists rarely dabble in the use of ingredients taken from sapient life. You can see why it would be immoral, but when has that ever stopped magic-using experimenters in the past? Giants' toes and Falmer ears are absolutely fair game, and due to the omnipresent influence of magic on the life of Tamriel, it stands to reason that materials salvaged from a man, mer or beast would be equally, if not more potent and efficacious. One of the greatest benefits to alchemy is just how easy it is to put into practice anywhere. As I'm sure you've witnessed in your travels, specially designed alchemy tables can be found in most apothecaries, magical institutions, and courts. They're so widespread in fact, that you may even find one in the corner of your local tavern, or even in some homes. As for travellers, only 4 tools are needed for the alchemist on the go, and in some regions these are conveniently packed into portable laboratories. A mortar and pestle for grinding your ingredients into a paste, a retort for distillation, a calcinator to increase potency, and an alembic to purge impurities from the brew. While the latter three of these tools are crucial for serious alchemists, simply using a mortar and pestle is enough to activate the magical properties of your chosen ingredients. Generally speaking, you need a solvent to serve as the potion's base. Water, preferably filtered, will suffice in most cases, and then your reagents, or active ingredients. It's really that simple. Alchemy for the most part is free of the taboos associated with the more conspicuous magics. The boons of this are evident through the quote I used at the top of the video. When a poverty-stricken serf can cultivate alchemical ingredients with only a small patch of land, or simply some access to the natural world, the magic becomes a utility of the people, not a luxury preserved for the nobility. Even if you do not have the time to learn the craft, you need only a handful of coin to purchase most potions, salves, ointments, and even poisons from your local alchemist. Alchemy is the most approachable form of magic, and has thus been integrated into wider society without any controversy. Though, while I am really advertising the positives of alchemy, there is one problem to address. Alchemy is an extremely dangerous field to innovate. With the advancements made over the eras, the perils are fewer, as there are countless guides on safe experimentation and ingredients to avoid. But for early adopters of the art, a tiny mistake could be fatal. You see, in order to discover an ingredient's alchemical properties, one must taste them. This can be seen through the practice of wartcraft, which is basically amateur alchemy. According to Fundaments of Alchemy, wartcraft is the act of grinding an ingredient against the teeth, which occasionally releases its simplest essences and results in a fleeting effect on the eater. Wartcraft never has as strong a result as a potion created using the proper tools. With conventional alchemy, you are using a mortar and pestle to grind an ingredient or group of ingredients into a paste, with water as a solvent. Therefore, in the case of wartcraft, you are able to determine the magical properties of an ingredient by using your mouth as a replacement for the mortar and pestle. Saliva acts as the solvent, and chewing the substance grinds it. If you have your heart set on learning the art of alchemy in the 4th era, you can do so without a worry in the world. You can tend to your garden growing your own ingredients. You can buy an alchemy set cheap, and you can follow step-by-step recipes from guides like the Herbalist's Guide to Skyrim or Special Flora of Tamriel. With the help of these sources, you can venture into the wilderness with confidence, knowing that the once prized jazzbay berries of the volcanic East March tundra will offer not only a pleasant taste, but also magica regeneration. The enticing bright purple petals of the nightshade flower, on the other hand, is exceedingly effective as a pure poison, but can also be combined with other compounds to stiffen joints as well. It is thus favoured amongst those who wish to disable their opponents in battle, and can be found coating the blades of many of the more unsavoury characters in Skyrim. Thanks to the Herbalist's Guide, you can take a wide berth around this particular flower. But imagine being an alchemist early in the First Era. There were no rules. If you wanted to learn an ingredient's secrets, you had to roll the dice. You could feel rejuvenated, euphoric in the discovery of a naturally derived health cure, or your throat could seize up, the muscles of your esophagus tightening as you gasp for air. This ingredient, despite an alluring aroma, was a potent poison. How many brave alchemists died before that was documented and filed in the learning institutions of Tamriel? It's a frightening prospect, and it's the reason early innovators deserve a great deal of reverence for cultivating the craft. A perfect example comes in the form of Asliel Doreni, the earliest known ancestor in the famous Doreni lineage. In the words of Vorian Doreni, few families in Tamriel can boast so many famous figures, wielding so much power over the fate of so many. Our warriors and kings are stuff of legend, and it is not to dismiss their honour and their achievements to say that you've heard quite enough about them. And of all of these legendary figures, the one Vorian identifies as the most significant and influential was an unassuming farmer and alchemist. Asliel Doreni harkens back to the humble beginnings of our clan, in the tiny farming village of Tiragel, on the banks of the river Salmus, which was then called the Duren, hence the family name. Like all on Somerset Isle in those days, he was a simple planter of the fields, Pagan witches and hexers were rumoured to use natural ingredients in their barbaric rituals and ceremonies, but the practice was alien to civilised folk. There were no witches' covens in Tyrrell, and of course, there would be no mages guild yet for thousands of years, so people would come to him for cures. He learned for himself the exact formula for combining black lichen and rue brush to create a cure for all manner of poison, and the amount of willow anther to crush and mix with chokeweed to cure diseases. Asliel proved the incredible potential of alchemy when Tyrrell became the target of a nearby tribe of savages named the Lokvar. The farmers were not equipped to defend themselves against such a threat. They were mer of the field, not warriors. However, by utilising an invisibility potion of Asliel's discovery, the locals fended off the Lokvar, convincing the superstitious barbarians that the Dureni were haunted. Of course, the opportunistic Lokvar were not gone for long, and they soon discovered Asliel's deception. Asliel was promptly kidnapped by the Lokvar, who were desperate to learn his secrets. Finally, after hours of torture, he agreed to tell them what the incandescent powder was. He did not know the name, but he called it glow dust, the only remains of a slain will-o'-the-wisp. In a few days' time, they came back with the ingredients the alchemist asked for. The chieftain, not being a complete idiot, made Asliel taste the potion first. He did as he was told and turned invisible, demonstrating that it did truly work. The chieftain put him to work creating more. No one apparently noticed that while he did, he was nibbling on black lichen and rue brush. The Lokvar took the potion as he doled it out, and soon, but not too soon that they didn't suffer, they were all dead. Asliel created an invisibility poison, and had fooled the savages into ingesting it, without the alchemist's black lichen and rue brush cure. Asliel Dureni, because of his excellence as an alchemist, was invited to Artaeum and became a Psijic. It is not known how many more of the common formulas we know today were invented by him there, but I have no doubt the science and art of alchemy as we know it today would not exist without him. Alchemy is accessible, affordable, effective, and free from the stigmas usually associated with magic. And as a result, alchemy has advanced throughout the centuries from pagan rites to a flourishing combination of science and art. I'd wager that if the masses knew just how arcane this practice is, they'd be skeptical of it, just like the other schools and fields of magic. And I believe that alchemy exposes the fallacies of those who despise magic. It is in a sense foolish to claim to hate magic, as through alchemy you can see how everything that exists in the mortal realm is inherently magical. Magic enters the mundus through the sun and the stars, and therefore everything under the sun is soaked in magic. Everything on the surface of Nirn bathes in the arcane rays of Aetherius, and in charging the soil with magical energy, the power inevitably would seep through the soil, spreading arcane tendrils as deep into the ground as mortals can hope to reach. Simply put, there is nothing available to mortals that wouldn't theoretically serve an alchemical purpose, as by merely existing on Mundus, a thing must be magical. If a giant's toe can through alchemy enhance strength, health and stamina, then it's not a leap to suggest that, were I to chop off the finger of the staunchest anti-magic Nord in Skyrim, the magical properties of their body would help to make a potent potion. Alchemy wordlessly makes the claim that a mortal's disdain for magic is a form of self-loathing. But there you have it guys, the lore of alchemy, and why I think this art, or science, or whatever you want to call it, is so important. Magic is an integral part of everything in the Mundus, and through alchemy we have the ability to channel it. I hope you enjoyed the video guys, thanks so much for watching, I've been Drew, and I'll see you next time.